Hi team. I'm aware I need a haircut, but I can't be bothered. Need a beard trim as well, but everything in its own time. If we were to take the entire story of you, all of the past, the previous events, situations and circumstances, all of those past relationships and jobs, all of the ups and downs that you've experienced thus far, that have formed a sort of beginning to this story that we kind of tell ourselves in our mind, and all of our imagined and predicted future about how this story is going to go, how these events are going to unfold, how this character, the protagonist, is going to evolve through into the ending of this story. And even all of the present circumstances, the page you're currently on, all of the present situations, scenarios that you find yourself in with work, family, and your development and your healing and your awakening, everything. Just taking all of that, kind of like a beginning, a middle, and an end. Past, present, and future. All of that we hold in our mind, and everything that you understand about yourself as the protagonist of this story, with everyone else as a kind of side character or auxiliary character in your story. You might have a few antagonists as well. Many people do. About the difficult people, the challenging people that are in your narrative. If we take all of it, the whole thing, the whole entire story, and actually imagine that it is like a book in front of you. You actually visualize this book in front of you. We're going to do this as a contemplative exercise now. The entire story of you with your name on the front, and just close that book. Just for this time, just for now. Just close that book. And we're going to put that book on a shelf. And we're not going to burn the book. We're not going to bin the book. We can get this book back later if we wish. At the end of this exercise, we're perfectly free and able to just pick the book straight back up. But just for now, just be disciplined, be quite strict with this. The book stays closed. Closed. No story, no narrative. Everything contained within that book, it's on the shelf. And bring yourself into just this moment now. Just be consciously aware of this moment. And be in this moment without any narrative, without any story at all. No story, no characters, no beginning, no middle, no end, no time. Time is a kind of story, so there's no time either. Just now, just experience now, raw. Neat, unmixed with anything. What is the raw material of experience? Without any constraining through a narrative. We're not trying to create a palatable understanding of our experience of reality. What if we just were open and aware to all of the colour, all of the sound, the temperature, the scent, through all of the senses, but adding no mind activity to it. No analysis, no observation. No, there is observation, no analysis, no interpretation, just observation. No stories needed. And isn't that curious? Isn't it amazing that it's possible to do this? Does this moment now need a narrative? Does your life experience in this moment require you to be a protagonist? Don't worry about the but what abouts, or what next, or what after, or what does this mean, or how do I do this. Don't worry about any of that. That's all the activity of the mind. Don't worry about that. Just this moment now, to actually experience life as it is. To be aware of your existence and the experience of being aware of existence. if this was just the very first moment that you just sprang into existence now, and you didn't even have a concept of to name something. What if you had no name? And you couldn't measure anything. There was no numbers. So just forget age, height, weight, money, all of that. They're just numbers. Just forget numbers. You never learned a single number or a single name. You didn't even know that naming was a thing. Just this moment now. Just raw, pure experience with no narratives. We start to contemplate, is the story even necessary? Is it even necessary? Does it need to be there? This is worth doing as a meditative, contemplative exercise, because we find that, things are a lot freer without the constraints of a narrative. And how much of our psychological suffering is contained in the story, but is not actually present in reality now. How much of the psychological suffering is actually being caused by the fact that we are just repeatedly telling ourselves this story? Where is the story? And we all do it, right? We're all engaged in this. This is like the framework by which we all operate in life. Everyone's walking around with one of their stories in their, with that particular story in their head. But your story, your personal story, where is it? No one else is telling it. You might appear as a character in their story, but they're not telling your story. They can't. And even you as a character in their story is most likely very inaccurate, because they are telling the story based on their experiences, their understanding of the world, their model of reality, the way they perceive people. And by the way, everyone's way of perceiving the world is so very, very different. Very different. That is a fundamental thing to understand if you find yourself repeatedly confused and disappointed and hurt by people. Is just one of the very first things to recognize, is that everyone's way of perceiving the world is so vastly different from one another. It really is. The way they see the world is just not the way you see the world. The way they experience other people is not the same way that you experience other people. So you appearing as a character in someone else's story is most likely very inaccurate. So your story, your personal story, it's only you that's actually telling it. So if you close the book and put it away, everything just carries on just fine. Everything just carries on just fine. And so just deepening into this kind of meditative, contemplative thought exercise here, just asking, does reality need a story? Does it even need a name? Does it even need to be understood? Has reality ever actually come to you and said, you need to understand me? Or is that something that people told you to do? Does the external and internal world actually require any analysis? Does it need to be constrained into a framework of understanding? Or is that something that other people told you that you have to do? So is the story necessary? There's two parts to that, really. One, is it necessary for you to exist? And we've just done this as an experiment. We find that actually your conscious awareness of being, which is just the awareness of your existence now, does just fine without the narrative. So there you go, safe, okay? You're perfectly fine without it. But the second part to the question could be, but should I get rid of the story? After all, we're quite invested in previous events, and we don't want to dismiss or invalidate any of the hurt that you've experienced. Sure, we don't want to do any of that. And we might be looking forward to a future and things being different in this imagined, predicted future. Sort of as we want to know how the story ends, don't we? Especially if you've been healing, you're on a healing and awakening journey. You might have only just started to really start enjoying life. So it's like, well, I don't want to get rid of my story. I've only just started enjoying it. I don't want to get rid of it. I just fixed the damn thing. It's a good question. These are good questions, good, logical, rational, reasonable questions. However, I believe that at the end of the healing journey and the awakening journey, that's the final part. It's actually to realize, wait a minute. I've been reading this story my entire life, thinking that there's going to be some kind of resolution at some point. That all of this, you've been going through the harrowing events, like the really difficult, the difficult second act for a very long time now. You've been in the middle of the story for a very long time, and then you realize, oh, hang on, I think I've always been in the middle of the story. I was never at the beginning of this story. It's always been the middle of this story. You realize, oh, hang on a minute, this is like a magic book where the pages just keep generating themselves. There's no end. This story goes on forever. You realize that, and that's the moment when you go, right, done with the story. It's a mug's game. Mug's game. That's where an advert usually plays at that time, right? No mid-roll ads on this one for two reasons. One, I wanted to give a nice smooth experience of this thought experiment. And two, I'm going to be my own advert, give myself a bit of a plug. I've started doing meditations on Insight Timer. It's a free app, the most popular meditation app in the world. New York Times recently named it as the most effective and best meditation app that exists. And actually, it's more popular than all the other meditation apps combined. And I'm on there with a ton of free meditations, including things about ending the story of you and emptying and shunyata, awakening, healing, finding inner peace. I'll pop the link in the first pinned comment down below. Go check out the free app on Insight Timer. They're a very good app as well because they are committed to ensuring that the teachers earn a meaningful revenue. So even though you're not paying anything, every time you listen to one of my meditations, I get something from it. So appreciate it if you go click the link and check it out. I also have a book called Still Now, a guide to finding inner peace through spiritual awakening, in which I discuss all of the principles that I'm speaking about in this video here. That'll be in that same comment. Thank you. Sorry for the plug. I always feel terrible for doing it. I'm aware of the issues surrounding that sort of thing, but man's got to eat and man's got to pay rent. Terrible. It's all part of my story. I mean, I understand the reluctance to cease telling the personal story of you from my own personal experience. I mean, I talk about my history and my past all the time, so I know this is kind of hypocritical what I'm saying. I reference my experiences and past to kind of qualify that I've been through the ringer a little bit. I mean, I recovered from addiction, I recovered from anxiety, recovered from depression, had a big physical transformation as well, recovered from obesity. And due to all of those things, I've got one heck of a investment in my personal history. I feel like there's a lot of juice in that, right? That is quite a powerful narrative. It was just like my transformation was just like those montages you see in films, like in Rocky and stuff like that, where they do training montages. They're reading the books and studying and then going out running and jogging on the beach in the morning. It was just like that. It was just like that. And it was like that during that time as well. And I cannot help but think that at that time, during that period, the story helped. The story was necessary at a certain time. It's just that eventually you realize that this just keeps repeating. I mean, I had this image, this really strong narrative in my head that I was the guy who was recovering from all that stuff and getting stronger and shredding up and getting all strong and everything like that. It formed a kind of ego in itself. But I recognize that ego was a kind of protective mechanism, and then it comes with problems. Why is that? Because that ego is formed as a protective mechanism. I mean, as long as I'm healing, as long as I'm doing the training and I'm getting fit and everything, it's a way of distancing myself from the past with all of the shame and horror and difficult, painful experiences that I went through in that past. So if I'm engaged in this narrative, in this story of no, I'm healing and I'm getting fit and I'm recovering and I'm doing all this, then it distances from that past. And you'd think, well, then that's good, right? How could that be an issue? Well, if I become too invested in that, it's a very vulnerable and fragile way of living, because that can be threatened. That image, that story, what you can see there and the story I'm telling in my mind, it's like I need it to be solid, real, actual, tangible reality. And anytime it's threatened by people's words, or I feel like it's not being validated by other people, it feels like I'm going to be going back to that very painful history. So I understand the reluctance. I don't want to close the story. I ain't closing that story. That story is me. But at the same time, we have to realize how much of the psychological suffering do we experience as a result of the story? How much of our suffering is something that we create in the mind and isn't present in reality? So I can look back at my history, and it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand, oh yeah, I'm really proud that I recovered. But on the other hand, I also have to deal with, oh man, like all that stuff I did, like that's terrible, like terrible past, terrible history. It's a double-edged sword. But if I bring myself into the present, there's no story. It's not to say none of that stuff ever happened, but it is to say that if I stop telling that story, where is it? Even those closest to me they've proved to me time and time again that they see that whole thing in a totally different way. They don't validate my interpretation of events. People don't. Have you ever noticed that? People are seemingly committed to invalidating. C'est la vie. Experiencing the reality of now is always peaceful. I'm often finding myself resisting or avoiding the now. There's usually something in the present where it's just something just doesn't feel... I feel agitated or nervous. But then I notice that if I just accept even the agitated and nervousness, there's no problem. But if I tried to go rushing around to alleviate that agitation, nervousness, boredom, just whatever, that's when the problems start. I can't remember who quoted it. I'll have to look it up. But the quote says, "All of the problems on earth stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." I was like, yeah, If everyone was just at peace, if everyone dropped their own narrative, their own story, and could just be at peace in the now, all problems on earth would cease. Now, recognizing that the central character in your story, in your narrative, is a kind of protagonist, and you're constantly trying to change this protagonist and try and form this protagonist into something that will relate to other people properly and interact with the world properly, and we're in a relentless attempt to improve or heal this particular character, or sometimes we're relentlessly trying to change all the other characters around us, trying to alter the external world, even to change it or to fix it. I mean, part of our we don't realize that the narrative that we have about the world, about planet Earth, that's part of your story. That's your story, the way you're perceiving the external world, with all of these problems in the world, all of these conflicts, all of these issues. Because you're relating it to you, it's just formed part of your story. If you close the book, the whole thing goes away. Just be as though there is no planet Earth for a moment. That's a story. It never began. Just as if there's just empty space in this moment. There's no planet Earth. You haven't been sent here to fix the world. And this isn't to be discompassionate. This isn't to be unkind or uncompassionate. We still care about the world. It's just we're not so fixated on those individual narratives and I have to go and fix that out there. If we just drop the narrative, you'll find that you've got plenty of your own things to fix, in your own immediate experience, right? Without getting involved in trying to change and fix the world. Just if every single person on Earth did their own inner work, then it would be done. The whole thing there'd be no more issues. So does this moment now need a narrative? Do you need a narrative to feel the temperature in the room, the scent? Do you need a narrative to hear the soundscape around you? Do you need a narrative to see the sunlight and the moonlight? Do you need a narrative to just be? Just be, just be. And so maybe at the end of it all, the final stage of the healing and the awakening, it was not to create a perfect ending and have a flawless catharsis to the whole story, but it was to end the story. Realize the trap. This story never ends. There's just new narratives forming. Just cease telling the story. I mean, what happens to the story? If we have a story book, but there's no reader, the story book is there, but nobody ever reads it. Is the story there in the book, or is it just ink on a page? And so what if we regarded the experience of our life just through conscious awareness of being? And treated it as ink on a page. Still with all of its movement, all of its colour, all of its sound, but you've just released yourself from the burden of trying to constrain your experience into an understandable, palatable narrative. Because that's essentially what's happening. I think that'll do for today, team. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I hope this video finds you well. I hope you have ease of being this very day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the way out. Take care. Be well. Stay present.